The morning sun cast long shadows across the mining colony on Kepler 442c. 7-year-old Kang Dae-ho pressed his face against the window of his family's small apartment, watching the strange blue aliens work in the distance. His mother had told him they were called Vorthak, and they were gentle creatures who helped run the mining machines. Dae-ho's parents worked as engineers for the Earth Mining Corporation. They had brought him to this distant world because the pay was good, and they wanted to save money for his future. The boy missed Earth, but he found the Vorthak fascinating. They had skin that looked like colored glass, and they moved in a flowing way that reminded him of water. The Vorthak lived in their own part of the colony. There were about 3,000 of them. They rarely spoke to the humans, but they were always polite when they did. Dae-ho had learned a few words of their language by listening to them work. His favorite was Krixtal, which was the name of their leader. Krixtal was old, even for a Vorthak. His blue skin had turned almost white with age, and he walked slowly but with dignity. Sometimes Dae-ho saw him watching the human children play, and the alien's large eyes seemed kind. That morning started like any other. Dae-ho ate breakfast with his parents, played with his toy ships, and watched the mining robots dig deep into the planet's surface. The colony was peaceful. The humans and Vorthak worked together without problems. Security was light because this part of space was supposed to be safe. Everything changed at midday. The attack came without warning. 3 large black ships appeared in the sky, moving fast and low. Dae-ho was playing outside when he heard the first explosions. The ships were firing energy weapons at the colony buildings. His father ran out of their apartment and grabbed him. "Pirates!" his father shouted.
"Get to the tunnels!"
The mining tunnels were supposed to be the safest place during an emergency. Dae-ho's mother joined them as they ran toward the tunnel entrance. Other humans were running too, screaming and crying as the pirate ships destroyed buildings behind them. A bright beam of light hit the ground near them. The explosion threw Dae-ho's father to the ground. His mother screamed and ran to help, but another blast hit them both. Dae-ho saw his parents fall and not get up again. The boy was alone and terrified. He ran into the tunnels as fast as his small legs could carry him. Behind him, the sounds of destruction grew louder. The pirates were landing now, and he could hear their voices echoing through the colony. Dae-ho found a small space between 2 mining machines and hid there. He was crying and shaking, but he tried to be quiet. His parents had always told him to be brave, but he had never been so scared in his life. Hours passed. The boy could hear the pirates moving through the colony above. They were looking for valuable things to steal and people to capture. He heard them talking about selling prisoners as slaves to other worlds. As darkness fell, Dae-ho heard different voices in the tunnels. These voices were softer, like music. The Vorthak had come into the tunnels too. A young Vorthak female named Velnara found him first. Her skin glowed softly in the dark tunnel like a gentle lamp. When she saw the human child, her large eyes filled with something that looked like sadness. "Little one," she said in broken human language, "where are your parents?" Dae-ho could only cry and point toward the surface. Velnara understood. She made a soft sound that might have been crying in her species. Then she called to the other Vorthak. More Vorthak came, including old Krixtal. They surrounded the human child, but not in a threatening way. They seemed to be protecting him. Krixtal knelt down, his ancient joints creaking, and looked into Dae-ho's eyes. "We will not leave you," Krixtal said in careful human words. "This we promise." The Vorthak had always been peaceful. For thousands of years, their species had avoided violence. When threatened, they would run away or hide. Fighting was not in their nature. But something about this human child changed them. As the pirates searched the tunnels, the Vorthak made a decision that surprised everyone, including themselves. They would not run. They would not hide. They would protect Dae-ho, even if it meant fighting for the first time in their species' history. Velnara stayed with Dae-ho while the other Vorthak prepared for what was coming. She taught him simple words in her language and shared her food with him. The boy was still scared, but the alien's gentle presence made him feel safer. Krixtal spoke to his people in their musical language. He told them that protecting this child was the right thing to do. The Vorthak had always believed in kindness and caring for others. This human child needed them, and they would not let him down. The pirates found the tunnel entrance on the second day. Their leader, a cruel being called Commander Thexmore, led his soldiers into the depths of the mining complex. They expected to find frightened aliens who would surrender without a fight. Instead, they found something they had never seen before. The Vorthak were waiting for them, and they were not running away. The first pirate to enter the main tunnel was surprised when a Vorthak stepped out to block his path. The alien was trembling with fear, but he stood his ground. Behind him, other Vorthak formed a line across the tunnel. "Move aside, Crystal Skin," the pirate growled. "We're looking for humans and valuables." "No," said the Vorthak. It was the first time in recorded history that their species had refused a direct command from an armed enemy. The pirates laughed, but their laughter stopped when more Vorthak appeared. These gentle beings, who had never hurt anyone in their lives, were ready to fight to protect one small human child. Commander Thexmore arrived to see what was causing the delay. When he saw the Vorthak blocking his path, he was amazed. He had raided many worlds and fought many species, but he had never seen anything like this. "You're willing to die for humans?" he asked Krikstal. The old Vorthak leader looked at the pirate commander with calm dignity. "We are willing to die for what is right," he answered. The battle for the tunnels was about to begin. On one side were professional fighters with advanced weapons. On the other side were peaceful miners who had never held a gun. But the Vorthak had something the pirates did not understand. They had love, and they had made a promise to a frightened child. As the first shots were fired in the depths of Kepler 442c, nobody could have predicted that this moment would change the entire galaxy forever. The first battle in the tunnels lasted 6 hours. Commander Thexmore had expected to sweep through the mining complex in minutes, but the Vorthak fought differently than any enemy he had faced before. They used the tunnels themselves as weapons. The Vorthak could make their crystalline skin vibrate at special frequencies that made the tunnel walls ring like bells. This sound confused the pirates and made their weapons less accurate. When the pirates fired their energy guns, the Vorthak would disappear into side passages they knew by heart. Velnara stayed with Deho in the deepest part of the tunnel system. She had found some emergency food supplies and made a small camp for them. The human child was still scared, but he was beginning to understand that these aliens truly cared about him. "Why are you helping me?" Deho asked in his simple way. Velnara thought for a moment. Her people did not have the same emotions as humans, but they had something similar. "Because you are small and alone," she said. "And because it is right." Above them, the battle continued. Krikstal led his people with surprising skill for someone who had never been in a war. He divided the Vorthak into small groups that could move quickly through the tunnels. They used mining tools as weapons and mining explosives to block passages. The pirates had better weapons, but the Vorthak knew every inch of their home. They led the enemy soldiers into dead ends and trapped them in collapsed tunnels. For every Vorthak that fell, they took down 2 pirates. But the cost was terrible. The Vorthak were not natural fighters, and many of them died learning how to fight. Krikstal watched his people sacrifice themselves for a human child they barely knew, and his ancient heart was both proud and breaking. On the surface, Commander Thexmore grew more and more angry. His reputation was built on quick, easy raids. This mining colony was supposed to be defenseless. Now his soldiers were being held up by aliens who should have surrendered immediately. "Bring in the heavy weapons," he ordered his lieutenant. "I want those tunnels cleared." "Sir, the heavy weapons might destroy the valuable mining equipment," the lieutenant warned. "I don't care about the equipment anymore," Thexmore snarled. "I want those crystal-skinned freaks dead." The pirates brought out weapons designed to destroy starships. They began blasting holes in the tunnel system from above. Huge sections of the mining complex collapsed, burying both pirates and Vorthak under tons of rock and metal. But Krikstal had planned for this. The deepest tunnels where Deho was hidden were reinforced with the same materials used to build starships. The heavy weapons could not reach them there. As the second day of fighting began, both sides were running out of strength. The pirates had lost many soldiers, and their commander was growing desperate. The Vorthak had lost even more people, but they refused to give up. Velnara taught Deho more words in the Vorthak language. She showed him how her people could make their skin glow brighter or dimmer, and how they could create beautiful patterns of light across their bodies. The boy was fascinated and forgot his fear for short periods. "My people lived on a world of crystal caves," Velnara told him. "We learned to make music with light and sound. We never hurt anyone. We only wanted to be peaceful." "Then why are you fighting now?" Deho asked. Velnara's skin glowed with soft blue patterns. "Because some things are more important than peace. You are more important than our old ways. On the third day, something unexpected happened. The pirates captured 3 Vorthak who had been trying to get food to the deeper tunnels. Commander Thexmore brought them to the main tunnel entrance and called out to Krixtal. "I have your people," the pirate leader shouted. "Send out the human child or I will kill them slowly." There was silence in the tunnels. The captured Vorthak could be heard crying in their musical language, but they were not begging for mercy. They were singing an old song about courage and sacrifice. Krixtal appeared at the tunnel entrance, alone and unarmed. His white-blue skin was covered with dust and small wounds, but he stood straight and proud. "Kill them if you wish," he said quietly. "We will not trade the child for anyone." Commander Thexmore was shocked. In all his years of raiding and piracy, he had never met anyone who would not negotiate for the lives of their friends. "You're all insane," he said. "It's just one human child. He's not even your species." "He is ours now," Krixtal replied. "We chose him and he chose us. That makes us family." The pirate commander killed the 3 captured Vorthak in front of Krixtal, expecting the old alien to break down or beg. Instead, Krixtal began to glow brighter than any Vorthak had ever glowed before. The light was so intense that the pirates had to cover their eyes. "You have made a mistake," Krixtal said, his voice carrying clearly through the tunnels. "You think we are weak because we choose peace. But we are not fighting for peace anymore. We are fighting for love." The old Vorthak leader turned and walked back into the tunnels. Behind him, every remaining Vorthak began to glow with the same intense light. The mining complex filled with brilliant, beautiful illumination. In the deep tunnels, Velnara felt her people's light and began to glow as well. Deho watched in wonder as she became like a living star. "What's happening?" he asked. "My people are saying goodbye to who we used to be," Velnara explained, "and hello to who we are becoming." The final battle began that night. The pirates attacked with everything they had left, determined to finish this embarrassing fight. The Vorthak met them with a fury that came from love and loss and the determination to protect something precious. But the Vorthak were not soldiers, and there were too many pirates. As dawn broke on the 4th day, it seemed like the battle was lost. Commander Thexmore and his remaining soldiers were pushing toward the deep tunnels where Deho was hidden. Krixtal made one last decision. He sent Velnara and 2 other young Vorthak to guard Deho, then took everyone else to make a final stand at the tunnel junction. They would hold that position until they all died, giving the child as much time as possible. As the pirates approached for the final assault, Velnara found an old quantum communicator in the mining equipment. It was designed to send emergency messages across space. She had never used human technology before, but love made her brave and clever. With Deho helping her understand the human words, she sent a simple message toward Earth. "We have your child. We will protect him. Please remember us." The message flew across space at faster than light speed, carrying with it the story of aliens who had chosen to die rather than abandon a human child they barely knew. Neither Velnara nor anyone else in the tunnels knew if anyone would receive the message or care about it. But sometimes the most important messages are the ones that seem hopeless, and sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. The quantum message from Kepler 442c reached Earth's Deep Space Communications Center 3 hours after Velnara sent it. The duty officer, a tired young man named Park Jin-woo, almost deleted it as mining colony routine traffic. Then he read the message again. "We have your child. We will protect him. Please remember us." The message was tagged as coming from a Vorthak transmitter, but it was written in human language. Park Jin-woo had never heard of aliens sending messages to protect human children. He sent the message up the chain of command immediately. Within an hour, it reached Admiral Kim Tae-hyun at Earth Defense Force Strategic Command. The admiral was a tough military man who had fought in 3 wars, but when he read the message, his hands shook. "Get me everything we have on Kepler 442c, he ordered his staff, "and find out if we have any ships in that sector." The news was not good. Kepler 442c was a small mining colony with minimal defenses. The nearest Earth Defense Force ships were 2 days away at maximum speed. If there was trouble at the colony, it would likely be over before help could arrive. But Admiral Kim had not become the head of Strategic Command by giving up easily. He contacted Captain Lee So-min, commander of the fast attack ship Seoul's Pride. Her ship was closer to Kepler 442c than any other Earth vessel. Captain Lee, I need you to break every speed record to reach Kepler 442c, the Admiral said over the quantum communication link. There's a human child there and aliens are dying to protect him. Captain Lee was a career military officer with no children of her own, but something in the Admiral's voice made her understand how important this was. We'll burn out our engines if we have to, sir, she promised. Soul's Pride changed course and pushed its engines beyond safe limits. Captain Lee's crew worked around the clock to squeeze every bit of speed from their ship. They knew they were racing against time, but they did not know exactly what they would find when they arrived. Meanwhile, the message from Kepler 442c was creating a stir throughout Earth's government. Ambassador Yoon Hye-jin, Earth's top diplomat for alien relations, had never heard of anything like this situation. In 30 years of diplomatic service, I have never seen aliens sacrifice themselves for humans they don't know, she told President Lim Seong-woo during an emergency meeting. If this is true, it changes everything we understand about interspecies relations. President Lim was a practical man who usually focused on Earth's interests first. But the message from the Vorthak touched something deep in his heart. What do we know about this Vorthak species? He asked. Dr. Choi Min-ho, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, provided the briefing. The Vorthak are completely peaceful, he explained. They have never fought a war in their recorded history. They're miners and engineers, not soldiers. If they're fighting to protect a human child, it goes against everything we know about their nature. Then why are they doing it? President Lim asked. Dr. Choi was quiet for a moment. I think, he said slowly, they're doing it because it's right. Some species have moral instincts that override their survival instincts. We may have just discovered that the Vorthak are one of those species. Back on Kepler 442c, the final battle was reaching its end. Crixtal and his remaining Vorthak were down to their last ammunition. The old leader had taken 3 wounds, but he still stood at the tunnel junction, blocking the pirates' path to the deep tunnels where Daeho was hidden. Commander Thexmore was also wounded and angry beyond reason. This simple raid had cost him 2/3 of his soldiers and damaged his reputation. He wanted to make the Vorthak pay for their resistance. You could have all lived if you had just given us the boy, he snarled at Crixtal. Now you'll all die for nothing. Crixtal's skin was dim with exhaustion, but his voice was still strong. We will not die for nothing, he said. We will die for love. That is the most important thing in the universe. Just as Commander Thexmore raised his weapon for the final assault, the tunnel walls began to shake. A deep rumbling sound echoed through the mining complex. Both pirates and Vorthak looked up in confusion. Above them, Soul's Pride dropped out of faster-than-light travel and entered Kepler 442c's atmosphere at dangerous speed. Captain Lee had pushed her ship so hard that 2 engines were failing. But she had made it in time. This is Captain Lee So-min of the Earth Defense Force. Her voice boomed through speakers that could be heard across the entire colony. You have attacked human citizens and their alien protectors. Surrender now or be destroyed. Commander Thexmore's remaining ships tried to fight, but they were no match for a military vessel. Soul's Pride destroyed 2 pirate ships in the first minute of battle and forced the 3rd to surrender. The pirates on the ground suddenly found themselves cut off from escape. In the tunnels, Captain Lee's assault troops moved quickly to secure the area. They had been briefed on the situation and knew they were looking for both human and Vorthak survivors. The first thing Captain Lee saw when she entered the main tunnel was the bodies. Hundreds of Vorthak had died in the 3-day battle. These peaceful aliens had fought like warriors to protect something precious to them. She found Crixtal still standing at his post, though he was barely alive. The old Vorthak leader looked at her with large, tired eyes. The child? He whispered. We'll find him, Captain Lee promised. You did well, old one. You kept your promise. Following the sounds of voices, the rescue team found the deep tunnels where Velnara had been protecting Daeho. The young Vorthak female was weak from hunger and exhaustion, but she had never left the boy's side. Daeho ran to Captain Lee when he saw her human face. The 7-year-old had been brave for 3 days, but now he could finally cry safely. Captain Lee picked him up and held him while he sobbed for his dead parents and his alien friends who had saved him. They protected me, Daeho said through his tears. They didn't even know me, but they protected me. Captain Lee looked at Velnara, who was glowing softly despite her exhaustion. The alien female had risked everything for a human child who was not even her species. It was the most beautiful and heartbreaking thing the captain had ever seen. The rescue teams worked for hours to find all the survivors. Of the 3,000 Vorthak who had lived on Kepler 442c, only 847 were still alive. They had paid a terrible price to keep their promise to one small human boy. As Soul's Pride prepared to leave the system with the survivors, Captain Lee sent a detailed report to Admiral Kim. She described the battle, the casualties, and the incredible sacrifice the Vorthak had made. "Sir," she concluded her report, "I have seen many acts of courage in my military career, but I have never seen anything like this. These aliens chose to die rather than abandon a human child. They deserve something from us in return." Admiral Kim read the report 3 times, then forwarded it to President Lim with a simple note. "Sir, we owe them everything. What do we do now?" The answer to that question would change the galaxy forever. But first there was a scared little boy who needed a new home, and 800 wounded aliens who needed to heal. The bigger questions could wait until later. Sometimes the most important moments in history begin with the smallest acts of kindness. The Vorthak had learned this truth in the tunnels of Kepler 442c. Soon the rest of the galaxy would learn it too. 6 months after the rescue from Kepler 442c, Earth's Global Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from across human space. President Lim Seung-woo stood at the central podium, preparing to make an announcement that would change how the galaxy understood humanity. In the front row sat Captain Lee So-min, now retired from active duty. Beside her sat 7-year-old Kang Dae-ho, who had legally become her adopted son. The boy was healthy and happy, but he often spoke about his Vorthak friends and asked when he could see them again. Next to Dae-ho sat 2 very special guests. Krixtal, the old Vorthak leader, had survived his wounds and was now Earth's first official alien refugee. Beside him was Velnara, the young Vorthak female who had protected Dae-ho in the tunnels. Her crystalline skin glowed softly with what humans had learned was contentment. The other 800 Vorthak survivors had been given homes on 3 different human worlds. They were learning human customs while teaching humans about their own culture. It was the first successful large-scale integration of alien refugees in human history. But President Lim had not called this special session just to discuss refugee policy. He had something much bigger in mind. 6 months ago, he began, we learned something about our place in the galaxy. We learned that courage and love are not limited to humanity. We learned that some beings will sacrifice everything for what is right, even when that sacrifice brings them no benefit. The president's voice grew stronger as he continued. The Vorthak species faced a choice on Kepler 442c. They could have saved themselves by abandoning a human child to pirates. Instead, they chose to fight and die to protect him. 2,153 Vorthak gave their lives for one human boy they barely knew. Murmurs ran through the assembly hall. Everyone had heard the story, but hearing the exact numbers made the sacrifice seem even more incredible. Today, President Lim announced, humanity makes a choice of our own. We choose to remember, we choose to honor, and we choose to protect. He gestured toward Dae-ho and the 2 Vorthak sitting in the front row. I hereby declare the Vorthak to be the first species in galactic history to receive Earth's shield protection. Any act of aggression against any member of the Vorthak species anywhere in the galaxy will be considered a direct attack upon humanity itself. The assembly hall erupted in surprised voices. This was unprecedented. No species in known history had ever extended military protection to another species without expecting something in return. General Park Yoon-soo, Chief of Earth Defense Forces, stood to explain the military implications. Effective immediately, Earth Defense Force ships will patrol Vorthak settlements and respond to any threats against Vorthak citizens. We are establishing permanent bases in 3 systems where Vorthak populations live. Director Nam Ju-yeon of Interspecies Relations added the diplomatic details. We are also offering the Vorthak full citizenship rights on any human world they choose to settle. They will have the same legal protections as human citizens, plus the additional protection of our military. In the front row, Krixtal's old eyes filled with tears. In his long life, he had never imagined that his people's sacrifice would be rewarded with something so generous. Velnara's skin brightened with patterns of joy and amazement. Young Dae-ho stood up and walked to the podium. President Lim lifted the boy so he could reach the microphone. The Vorthak saved me when my parents died, Dae-ho said in his clear child's voice. They didn't have to help me, but they did. Now they're my family too. I think it's good that we're protecting them like they protected me." The simple words from a 7-year-old carried more weight than any political speech. The assembly hall fell completely quiet as people absorbed what they had just witnessed. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about Earth's declaration. Within hours, alien governments across space were sending messages to Earth, some demanding explanations and others issuing threats. The hegemony, the same pirate organization that had attacked Kepler 442c, was particularly angry. Their leader, Grand Admiral Vextar, sent a direct message to President Lim. "Humans protect only humans," the message said. "This precedent threatens the natural order of the galaxy. We will test your resolve." President Lim's response was swift and public. The hegemony made the mistake of underestimating Vorthak courage once before. Now they are underestimating human determination. We welcome them to test us. Other alien species watched nervously as humanity flexed its diplomatic and military muscles. Some wondered if they could earn similar protection from the increasingly powerful human race. Others worried that humanity was becoming too influential in galactic affairs. The Zelkari Trade Federation sent a formal diplomatic note asking if Earth would extend protection to other, deserving species. The note included a list of valuable trade concessions they were willing to offer in exchange for human military support. President Lim's response disappointed them. "Earth's protection cannot be bought," he stated. "It can only be earned through actions that demonstrate the highest moral character. The Vorthak earned our protection through sacrifice and love, not through trade deals." Meanwhile, the Vorthak survivors were adjusting to their new status as Earth's protected species. Most of them found the attention overwhelming but deeply moving. They had never expected their sacrifice to result in such generosity from the humans. Krixtal, despite his age and injuries, became an unofficial ambassador for his people. He traveled to different human worlds speaking about Vorthak culture and the events on Kepler 442c. Wherever he went, humans treated him with enormous respect and affection. "We did not fight for rewards," he would tell human audiences. "We fought because protecting the innocent is right. That humans understand this and reward it shows that our species are meant to be friends." Velnara took a different path. She enrolled in Earth's first interspecies university, studying human psychology and Vorthak human cooperation. She wanted to understand why her people had been willing to die for Deho, and why humans had been willing to protect her people forever. Her research led to a groundbreaking paper titled "Love Across Species: The Biological and Emotional Basis of Interspecies Protection Instincts." The paper became required reading for diplomats and military officers throughout human space. Captain Lee So-min, now a civilian, found herself busier than ever. As Deho's adoptive mother and a hero of the Kepler 442c rescue, she was constantly asked to speak about the events that led to the Shield Declaration. "People ask me why humanity made such a commitment to the Vorthak," she would say. "The answer is simple. We made the commitment because it was right. When someone saves your child, you don't forget. When someone sacrifices everything for love, you honor that sacrifice." Young Deho adapted to his new life with remarkable resilience. He learned to speak Vorthak fluently and often translated between human and Vorthak children at his school. He became a living symbol of the bond between the two species, but the boy also remembered the cost of that bond. Sometimes at night he would dream about the tunnels of Kepler 442c and the Vorthak, who had died protecting him. In those moments, Captain Lee would hold him and remind him that their sacrifice had meaning. "They didn't die for nothing," she would tell him. "They died so you could live and so our species could learn to be better. That's a gift we can never repay, only honor." As the months passed, it became clear that Earth's Shield Declaration was more than just politics. Human military bases near Vorthak settlements became centers of cooperation and friendship. Human and Vorthak engineers worked together on new technologies. Human and Vorthak artists created beautiful works that neither species could have made alone. The galaxy watched this unprecedented partnership with fascination and sometimes with envy. Some species began to wonder what they would have to do to earn humanity's protection. Others plotted to test whether humans would really fight for aliens who were not their own species. The answer to that question would come sooner than anyone expected. 5 years had passed since the Shield Declaration, and the galaxy had grown used to seeing human warships protecting Vorthak colonies. Most species accepted that humans were serious about their promise. But the hegemony had been planning their test of human resolve for a long time. The attack came on New Crystallis, a small Vorthak mining settlement in the Outer Rim. Grand Admiral Vextar chose this target carefully. It was far from major human bases, and the Vorthak population was only a few hundred. He believed humans would not risk a major war over such a small group of aliens. He was very wrong. The hegemony sent 12 attack ships to New Crystallis, expecting to overwhelm the small defense force and capture the Vorthak miners. They planned to hold them hostage and demand that Earth end its protection of alien species. The attack began at dawn on New Crystallis. The hegemony ships destroyed the colony's communication array first, hoping to prevent calls for help, but they had not learned about the new quantum communication network that Earth had built for all Vorthak settlements. The distress signal reached Fleet Admiral Han Wu-jin within minutes. Admiral Han commanded the new interspecies protection fleet, created specifically to defend Earth's alien allies. His fleet included both human ships and vessels jointly built by human and Vorthak engineers. All ships, prepare for immediate jump to New Crystallis, Admiral Han ordered. This is not a drill. Our friends need help. The response was faster and more overwhelming than anyone had expected. 17 human warships, including the massive battleship Soul's Revenge, jumped into the New Crystallis system within 2 hours of the attack. They were joined by 6 jointly built human Vorthak vessels that used revolutionary crystal resonance technology. Grand Admiral Vextar found himself facing odds he had not planned for. His 12 ships were outnumbered and outgunned by forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. "This is Fleet Admiral Han Wu-jin of the Earth Defense Force," came the message across all frequencies. "You are attacking a protected species. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Vextar tried to negotiate. "We only want to test human resolve," he transmitted back. "Surely humans will not start a war over a few alien miners." Admiral Han's response was swift and final. "You tested our resolve when you fired the first shot. Now you learn the consequences." The battle was short and decisive. Human Vorthak hybrid ships proved devastatingly effective. The Vorthak crystal resonance technology allowed the ships to coordinate their attacks perfectly, while human weapons and tactics provided the firepower. 10 hegemony ships were destroyed in the first 30 minutes. The remaining 2 surrendered, but Admiral Han was not finished. Earth's response to the hegemony attack went far beyond defending New Crystallis. Over the next 3 weeks, human fleets systematically destroyed 6 major hegemony bases throughout the galaxy. The message was clear. Threatening Vorthak meant facing the full military might of humanity. The hegemony, one of the most feared pirate organizations in the galaxy, was broken as an effective force. Other species watched this display of human power with a mixture of respect and fear. Earth had just proven that their protection of the Vorthak was not symbolic. It was absolute. On Earth, 12-year-old Kang Dae-ho followed the news about New Crystallis with intense interest. He was no longer the scared little boy who had hidden in mining tunnels. He had grown into a confident young person who spoke 3 human languages and 2 Vorthak dialects fluently. "Mom," he asked Captain Lee So-min over dinner, "why did the hegemony think we wouldn't help the Vorthak?" Captain Lee, now working as Director of Human Vorthak Relations, thought carefully about her answer. "Some beings only understand selfish reasons for doing things," she explained. "They couldn't believe humans would risk our ships and soldiers for aliens we don't owe anything to. But we do owe them something," Dae-ho said. "They saved me first." "Yes," Captain Lee agreed. "But even if they hadn't, I think we would still protect them. That's what families do for each other." The word family had become the key to understanding the human Vorthak relationship. It was not based on trade agreements or military alliances. It was based on emotional bonds that had been forged in the tunnels of Kepler 442c and strengthened by 5 years of cooperation. Velnara. Now Dr. Velnara, after completing her studies in interspecies psychology, had documented this bond in her research. Her work showed that humans and Vorthak had developed genuine affection for each other as species, not just as individuals. "Humans protect the Vorthak because they love the Vorthak," she wrote in her latest paper. "And Vorthak serve humans because they love humans. This is not politics. This is family." Krixtal, now ancient even by Vorthak standards, had become Earth's first alien citizen to address the Galactic Council. His speech to the assembled representatives of 200 species became one of the most famous addresses in galactic history. "My people were dying," he said in his careful musical voice. "One human child was in danger. We chose to save the child and die ourselves. Humans chose to save us and make us family. This is what love looks like across the stars." The speech had an unexpected effect. Within a year, dozens of species were asking Earth about the requirements for earning human protection. Some offered military alliances, others offered trade deals, and a few offered scientific knowledge. Earth's response, delivered by Ambassador Shin Ga-un, was consistent. "Human protection cannot be bought or negotiated," she told each delegation. "It can only be earned through actions that demonstrate the highest moral character." "What actions?" the aliens would ask. "We don't know," Ambassador Shin would answer honestly. "But we trust that when we see them, we will recognize them." This answer frustrated many species, but it also inspired others. Some alien governments began treating their own people better, hoping to impress human observers. Others started programs to help less powerful species, thinking this might earn human favor. The result was an unexpected improvement in conditions throughout the galaxy. Species that had never cared about moral behavior began to compete to see who could be most ethical and helpful to others. Dr. Song Yu-ri, Earth's leading researcher on galactic politics, called this the shield effect. The desire to earn human protection was making the galaxy a more peaceful and fair place. But not all the changes were political. The bond between humans and Vorthak had also created technological and cultural revolutions. Master Engineer Ryu Donghyun led the teams that combined human manufacturing with Vorthak crystal resonance technology. The results included faster-than-light communication systems that worked instantly across the galaxy, and spacecraft that could coordinate their actions like flocks of birds. Human Vorthak art became popular throughout civilized space. The combination of human emotion and Vorthak light patterns created beautiful works that neither species could have made alone. Most importantly, human and Vorthak children were growing up together on dozens of worlds. These children spoke both languages naturally and understood both cultures instinctively. They represented the future of interspecies cooperation. Daeho was one of these children, though he also carried the special status of being the human child whose rescue had started everything. As he grew older, he began to understand the responsibility that came with his unique history. "I want to be a diplomat," he told Captain Lee on his 12th birthday. "I want to help other species become friends with each other like humans and Vorthak did." "That's a wonderful goal," his adoptive mother said. "But remember, you didn't choose to be special. The choice was made for you by brave Vorthak who died to protect you. Your job is to make their sacrifice mean something good." Daeho nodded seriously. He remembered the tunnels of Kepler 442c, even though he had been very young. He remembered Velnara's gentle light and Krikstal's brave words. Most of all, he remembered the Vorthak who had died so he could live. "I won't let them down," he promised. As Daeho looked up at the stars from Earth's surface, he saw a galaxy that was different from the one he had been born into. It was a galaxy where love could cross species barriers, where moral behavior was rewarded with military protection, and where a single act of kindness could change the course of history. The Vorthak had protected a human child when they didn't have to. Humanity had declared their species shielded when they didn't have to. And now the galaxy was learning that family was not limited by biology, distance, or the differences between species. It was, as Krikstal had said in his famous speech, what love looked like across the stars. And for the first time in galactic history, love was backed by the most powerful military force known to exist. The pirates and raiders who had once terrorized peaceful species found themselves facing a new reality. Touch the innocent and humanity would find you. Hurt the defenseless and human fleets would make you pay. It was a better galaxy because one species had chosen to die for love, and another species had chosen to remember that sacrifice forever. Some called it the shield doctrine. Others called it the human protection principle. But Daeho, now growing into the young man who would shape the next chapter of galactic history, preferred a simpler name. He called it family.